and doors were barred, and all the windows fastened down. I spent the night in sleeplessness, rose at every sound, half in hopeless sorrow and half in fear of the day. We'd find the soldiers breaking through to drag us all away. Just before the sunrise, I heard something at the wall. The gate began to rattle, and a voice began to call. I hurried to the window, looked down into the street, expecting swords and torches and the sound of soldiers' feet. There was no one there but Mary, so I went down to let her in. And John stood there beside me, she told us where she'd been. She said they've moved him in the night and none of us knows where. The stone's been rolled away and now his body isn't there. We both ran toward the garden and John ran on ahead. We'd found a stone in the empty tomb, just the way that Mary had said. But the winding sheet they'd wrapped him in was just an empty shell. How and where they've taken him is more than I could tell. Well, something strange had happened there, just what I did not know. John believed a miracle, but I just turned to go. Circumstance and speculation couldn't lift me very high, 'cause I'd seen them crucify him, and then I saw him die. Back inside the house again, the guilt and anguish came. Everything I'd promised him just added to my shame. And when at last it came to choices, I denied I knew his name. And even if he was alive, it wouldn't be the same. Suddenly the air was filled with strange and sweet perfume. Light that came from everywhere drove shadows from the room. Jesus stood before me with his arms held open wide, and I fell down to my knees and just clung to him and cried. He raised me to my feet, and as I looked into his eyes, love was shining out from him like sunlight from the skies. Guilt and my confusion disappeared in sweet release, and every fear I'd ever had just melted into peace. He's alive, he's alive, he's alive, and I'm forgiven. Heaven's gates are open wide. He's alive, he's alive, he's alive, and I'm forgiven. Heaven's gates are open wide. He's alive, he's alive, he's alive, and I'm forgiven. Heaven's gates are open wide. He's alive, he's alive, he's alive, he's alive.
Hello, everyone. You may have noticed, but I've got whatever virus it is, not COVID, that a lot of people have had this past couple of weeks here in the Quad Cities. In my case, caused a real sore throat and has borrowed at least some of my voice. So I'm trying to whisper the last couple of days so that I can save my voice for tonight. We're filming on Thursday, so Maundy Thursday, and also for Friday and Sunday. But it got me to thinking about whispering. You know, the very first Easter began in a garden. I don't know if it was a garden like this, if it had bushes or benches or anything else, but we were told it was a garden outside of that tomb. And when the women came, they noticed the stone rolled away. And in one of the gospel accounts, they even thought that Jesus was the gardener there to tend the area. They ran and they told everybody that they could about resurrection, about new life, about the joy that they'd felt. But you know, very shortly after that, the disciples realized they couldn't talk about it. If they were going to talk about the resurrection, about Jesus being released from the tomb, even about seeing him in the post-resurrection experiences, they were going to have to whisper. They were afraid of the Roman authorities. They were afraid of religious authorities. They were afraid that they would be persecuted and attacked because they were making up a story just to keep Jesus alive, that they were lying to other people, deceiving them and tricking them. Well, all of that happened, so their fears were well-founded. But you know, in this garden, the people that are remembered by these bricks, they're celebrating this Easter, shouting, screaming, singing in a heavenly choir, the top of whatever voice they have. And you know, we can too. None of us who are watching this have ever had to live through religious persecution, at least not in America. Christians have been free to talk about Jesus for centuries, and we have. Now, other faith traditions have been persecuted here. Other faith traditions have been persecuted, including Christians in other countries. But for those of us who were born and raised in this country, we have been lucky enough to every year, at every Easter, every Holy Week, worship publicly, loudly, and in whatever way that we want. And I hope that we recognize what a wonderful gift that is. And the best way to keep that going is to do what the women at the tomb did, is to tell everyone how Jesus has touched your life in whatever way. If you want to write it, put a little note on social media, talk to your neighbor, your friend, whoever. Nothing is holding us back from being able to talk about the empty tomb. Even if you have to whisper just a little bit or for a couple of days. There are people who will say, oh, you know, Christians don't get the same freedom like we used to. It's not true. It's hogwash. It's a story we've made up and told ourselves. Right? Kids can still pray in school quietly. They can form a club that can meet on school grounds after school. Right? We can still have a worship service out in our parking lot, out on a street corner if we want. We've filmed Reset in all sorts of places around town. No one's ever stopped us. We have all the freedom to share the word of Jesus that we ever have. The only thing that holds us back is ourselves. We've got to find our voice again. We've got to learn and practice good, loud speech about Jesus and about what he's done in our lives. We've got to share in word and deed what the resurrection means to us. Because if we don't, little by little, it will disappear from our culture. And little by little, no one will talk. And little by little, the freedom and all that we have might go away. So let's not whisper anymore. We don't have to threaten. We don't have to wag our fingers. We don't have to do anything by force. In fact, Jesus wouldn't want us to in the last days of his life. He could have used force. He didn't. He told his disciples not to. We don't have to push Christianity on anyone, and we shouldn't. All we should do is tell our story. Tell your story, the way that Jesus has touched your life. Tell it to one or two people and invite them to share it too. That's all it takes. Don't whisper if you don't have to.